You are listening to Peak One Sports.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Sports Page on the Peak One Sports Network. I'm Ashton Nix, and sitting with me here, across from me, I guess not really across, but my co-host, Chris Robb. What's going on, man?
Nothing much, man. How you doing?
Doing good. Yeah, saying across because you are across from me, kind of.
Yeah.
But no, you are definitely not sitting across from me. You're in your studio in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here in Texas. Thank you for watching this episode. Be sure to subscribe to all of our Peak One Sports, or see all of our Peak One Sports shows, and subscribe to our YouTube page. Comment and hit the notification button so you get an alert every time a new episode drops. And you can listen to all of our shows however you listen to podcasts. Real quick, we'll talk about our sponsor, Betalytics. Do you use, Chris, the Sleeper app at all?
I just started using it this past, probably like 2 weeks ago, actually. We had our fantasy draft on there, so we're doing our fantasy draft. And, I heard of it as a betting app, and I was like, I might as well try it. So I'm going to try it. This will be the first weekend I'm going to try it. Just to see how I do and everything, because I usually use just Prize Picks.
Yeah. We use Sleeper for one of our fantasy football leagues, one of our dynasty leagues. And we were having a Peak One dinner with a couple of guys who were doing Friday night football broadcasts, and they were using it for prop bets and all kinds of things. And I'm like, is that legit gambling? And they're like, yeah, it is. I'm like, it lets you do it even though we're in Texas. And they had no problem with it. So
it's not illegal in Texas.
Apparently not, because the Astro location in Texas isn't one of the ones. I'm not sure why.
Right.
But yeah, I jumped on Betalytics, got some information, and did a little parlay. I got screwed though because Aaron Rodgers.
I had him in one of mine too. Yeah.
Yeah, but all the other picks I used with Betalytics worked out because you can go to the Betalytics dashboards and quickly identify the top graded best bets, hottest trends, and use that promo code PEAK1 and you get 25% off when you sign up today. Go to Betalytics.com to start betting smarter, and I'm definitely going to use them for tomorrow night's Thursday night game. I have time to do a little more research.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and today it makes it a lot easier to do one of these shows. You have the Rangers on a win streak. They're back in the playoffs. As of now, they're just a game back of Houston for the division, and we're going to get into your MLB Power Rankings here in a little bit. And then the Cowboys just balled out. We're going to talk about Cowboys Giants, and then we'll preview Cowboys Jets because they got a little, probably a lot easier for the Cowboys, but more complicated from a standpoint of, okay, now we're all off season. I know you figure for one game, but they had to be thinking about that next game with Aaron Rodgers, and now you're completely different game plan. Although we'll get into it. I don't think they have much of a problem with New York.
Yeah.
So starting off 40-0, what stuck out to you in that game? Other than just being complete surprise, or were you surprised? Maybe you expected that.
I didn't. I thought it would be a way closer game, especially on the road.
Road playoff game.
Yeah, road
division game.
Yeah, and it was just kind of just I don't know. It was just one of those games where I didn't really have any, expectations going in. I was just kind of like, okay, I expected them to win, obviously, but not like that. Like that's it. It was at one point I stopped watching. Not because I was, it was just like, man, like, I'm just they're up 40-0. I'm gonna just go ahead on just.
I know at some point, at some point I'm laying there. I watched the whole game, but it's like, that nervousness and stress is just completely gone. You're not even.
Yeah. It's not really. I'm just like, okay, it's because some games you can be up 2 touchdowns or 17 points, and you can still kind of feel like maybe that if they score a touchdown here, we put the pressure on them, and it was just never that. As far as like the second half. So not really stressful. I love those wins, but at the same time, you kind of want competitiveness. You kind of want to watch and like, kind of be on the edge of your seat. But you love games like that, blowouts, dominant games. So
Yeah, you're waiting, like you said, even when you're up, and then you start, taking your foot off the gas. Although the offense didn't dominate really at all,
hmm
but when you get into that prevent defense and then you start giving up big yards, you're like, okay, I get it, but you need to tighten it up. It's
right,
if they score
right.
here and do this, but outside of that first drive, the Giants did absolutely nothing. There was not a
hmm
time where I'm worried like, okay, you're up 26 nothing, but they're driving on you now, or anything. There was
hmm
that one play in the I believe it was in the second half, but I guess Diggs gave up. I mean, I don't even remember how big of a pass it was, but it was when he forced the fumble,
Um,
and the
yeah,
guy
yeah,
got
yeah,
past him, and like, okay, whatever. But then obviously he stripped the ball out, and that's
hmm
the only time I can really remember them crossing midfield. I'm sure there were a couple of times they
midfield,
did.
yeah, yeah.
But
It was
yeah,
pretty dominant.
overall dominant, especially by the defense, and that's really what surprises me. I knew the defense was going to be good. The defensive line was a lot better than I thought they were going to be,
hmm
but you could not have told me that the Cowboys were going to win 40-0, and Dak
Yeah,
would throw for 143 yards. He wouldn't have a touchdown.
right.
Um, Pollard ran well, but he didn't have,
Mhm.
other than yards per carry, he didn't have any crazy stats
Like,
or
yeah, yeah.
yeah, he had a couple touchdowns, but
hmm
he didn't just run down their throats necessarily. It was an odd win, and like I had mentioned last week, although they've been coming off two, back-to-back playoff appearances, two 12-win seasons, it seemed like, uh, I mean, the expectations are always high for the Cowboys, but the mood around it seemed like, yeah, they're not going to do much this year. If they
hmm
do, it's because it's a weak NFC,
hmm
um, which typically, when your expectations are like that, it's the Cowboys kind of exceed them a little bit, and it's when everybody's all on the bandwagon is when they disappoint you. And the Cowboys
Yeah,
being a big market, big TV team, big ratings, they're always put in these positions early in the season. They're always starting off against the Jets
yeah.
or the Bucks the last couple of years.
hmm
Um, but yeah, I was expecting it to be, I expected the Cowboys to win. I thought they were a better team. I don't think Daniel Jones is a great quarterback. I thought the Cowboys
hmm
defense was great. I thought they'd get off to a slow start and probably win by 10 points or something like that.
Yeah.
Road game, division game. But yeah, I didn't.
hmm
They kind of, that first drive, you're like, okay, guys, calm down. You're giving, they're moving it down the field pretty fast. And then they just stopped them
hmm
and never gave up
Yeah.
another big drive like that.
Yeah. It was dominant. It was. Um, I was surprised by the defense, but going in, I knew that would be the strong suit of this team this year. The defense they picked up, Stephon Gilmore. The D line is what really surprised me. Daniel Jones was like, it was almost like his O line hated him. Like it was just like they're just letting him go. How many? They had 7 sacks, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken,
7 sacks.
something. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
Armstrong had two. Odigizua
mm-hmm,
had two. Parsons had one, which
mm-hmm,
I'm surprised that first. I think it was the first drive. It was early on in the game. Uh, they fumbled the ball. Jones fumbled the ball and then kind of fell on it, and Parsons got. I don't
yeah,
know why that wasn't considered a sack or
mm-hmm,
whatever.
yeah,
But he had a ton of pressures. He was dominant in that entire game. The stat line didn't
yeah, for sure.
necessarily show it, I guess. Like
Yeah,
if you look at
absolutely.
quarterback pressures and hits and try, it
Yeah,
shows up. But Parsons was absolutely dominant, and
mm-hmm,
it all went back to the point I made last week where this team can win a Super Bowl with Dak, how the
Definitely.
roster is. He doesn't have to necessarily take over. Now, I don't think they're gonna have a lot of success if Dak continues to go, throw for less than 200 yards.
143. Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, I did see some accuracy issues, but a lot there. I mean, it was raining. There wasn't that urgency because he never touched the field when the Cowboys weren't up.
Yeah. And
Especially
it feels
later.
like he never really had wasn't really like a rhythm. It was just more of like, they were just going out there like, defense was getting stop after stop after
And
stop, and it was just
Ferguson
more of
dropped
just
a couple of passes, one that probably was
yeah.
going to be a touchdown. He caught it near the goal line.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they didn't need to get into that groove, which helps that he didn't turn it over as well.
Yeah.
You like to see him be a little bit more accurate, but again, it was raining. I mean, you can only worry about. So I'm not going to pick apart this. You can talk about the defense needs to lead this team, and Dak just needs to protect the ball, which he did.
Right. Yeah.
Now, some games he's going to go off and probably throw for 300 yards and have a few touchdowns, probably an interception or two. But as long as he's not putting the defense in a terrible position, short fields like he was a lot of times last year, I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really just like you just said, to harp on that. That's basically what they need to do, really. And that's like a lot of Super Bowl teams are like that. All you got to do is don't put your defense in a bad position. And whenever you get the ball, don't turn it over. And that's just how great teams are. They just don't do that. They don't really turn the ball over, and they never really put their team in a bad position, and they go hand in hand. So they keep doing that. They'll win a lot of games this year, and their schedule is pretty favorable for them as far as, they don't play too many games where I'm like, that's a loss, so they should be favored most of their games this year. Not all of them, obviously. Like, they'll probably be favored 11 games.
They'll be favored this upcoming week as well, especially. I think they'd be favored anyways, but especially now that Aaron Rodgers is out for the year.
I think the line is 9 points right now, I think, for the Jets game.
And yeah, that's in Arlington as well. That's a big. I mean, for a professional game, that's a big line. But you do have Zach Wilson coming in. Of course, Aaron Rodgers tearing his Achilles 4 plays into the game.
That's tough. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of how to word this properly. It's beneficial that the Cowboys know that Rodgers is out. I'm not saying it's good that he's out, but that it's not a possible 2-week injury where he's questionable. And I mean, even if they know he's not going to play against the Cowboys, where they don't say anything, and then Dallas has to prepare for both. Now all they have to focus on is Zach Wilson and
Zach Wilson. Yeah.
I don't know. Even though the Jets were able to pull that game out last night, it goes back to what we were talking about with Dak. They won. The Bills had that game every step of the way, and Josh Allen turns it over 4 times, 3 interceptions and a fumble, and then they have that miracle punt return for a touchdown. So at any point you don't turn the ball over, Bills win that game.
Yeah. So we gotta talk about Josh Allen later on down the line. Especially after this week. Yes. Because his
let's go ahead and talk about him right now.
Games, yeah. I mean, man, he was. I still feel like he's a top 5 quarterback. I don't want to I hate doing the recency bias thing, but his last 4 or 5 games have just been like.
Well, he turns the ball over.
He does. He has I saw he had the most turnovers.
Yeah, he's one of those players.
In the league.
And he usually makes up for it because he'll run a whole lot, and has different ways that he plays the game. I mean, it was the same with Romo. Romo turned the ball over a lot. Complete different. I mean, I know Dak turned it over a lot last year, but that's just not his MO. Romo was a gunslinger, was going to throw interceptions. And there were games that Romo had 3, 4, even a 5 interception game, and they won the game.
They won the game, yeah.
But that comes with Josh Allen, and when it happens the first week of the year, and again, it's recency bias. There's nothing good coming from that. It was a bad game for him.
Mhm.
You can't say, okay,
And
well, they had good games and then he had a bad game. He just right off the bat had the bad game.
yeah, especially coming off the off-season drama with, you know, every it was just kind of like one of those games where it was just like I have like, you know, a couple friends that are Bills fans and like it's like a bad taste in their mouth right now. And
Yeah.
you know, I personally don't care. I like Josh Allen though. You know, it's just I don't know. I whenever people compare him to like Mahomes and Burrow and stuff, because I was at one point last year for sure doing that, and you know he came in as the favorite to win MVP, and you know the cream always rises to the top, and it was just I was like, you know,
Yeah.
he's like
definitely
he's like
one.
fourth or fifth. He's like fourth or fifth,
Yeah.
but he's not up there where it's. I think it's more of like a Mahomes. I would even say Burrow is kind of in that tier a little bit, and then it's a drop off, and then you know you have everybody else.
Yeah. He's definitely in that conversation because he's won a lot and been in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, but look the same. Burrow had a terrible week 1.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't watch the game. I'm just going by stat line. But he didn't even throw any touchdowns. I know that for sure because he's on my fantasy team.
Yeah,
Allen
yeah,
did
they
throw
lost.
a couple of touchdowns, or a touchdown.
Yeah,
Did he throw 2 touchdowns?
I think he threw. I know
At least
for
one.
sure. Yeah.
But and even Mahomes didn't have a great game. I know that pick 6 really wasn't on him. It, you know, hit the receiver's chest. What are you going to do? But you look, every quarterback you just named, Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, everybody had a bad game outside of Tua. Herbert had a decent game, even though they lost. But Hurts had the same situation. Yeah, they were going down there milking the clock, and he fumbles the ball and gives New England a chance, even though they were able to hold off the Patriots. But it's just week 1.
Yeah, true.
Things happen. Everybody has game plans, and it changes. There's no reason to get overzealous about anything. Now, hopefully, things like Cowboys defense does hold up, which everyone kind of expected it to already. But things like the Browns beating the Bengals 24-3. What are the Bengals just? They scored 3 points. That's bad. That's a bad game, especially when you have a great offense.
Yeah.
And then the Browns are kind of in that medium range where we could see them doing bad or kind of stepping up and making a playoff run as well.
With Deshaun Watson too, like he's still he played a solid game, and I think he's been forgotten since he's been out and everything. But before all that stuff happened, he was being argued as a top 5 quarterback. So then they have Amari Cooper. Then they have the run game that they have. So they're a pretty tough team. I've always kind of thought they were talented, but it's the Browns. So I'm not really. I feel like it'll always just be the Browns to me until they win it, and that's just how it is. But
so Micah Parsons made a comment about the Giants leaving Jones in the game so late and said it was just irresponsible. And I know the announcers or commentators alluded to it as well. They're typically not going to badmouth anybody. They're very careful with their words, and I know they said yeah, Daniel Jones isn't going to come out of this game. He's going to earn a lot of respect. He says, hey, this is my team. I'm going to deal with the butt whooping, and but even I thought, there's something to that, but at the same time, you paid him
it's week 1,
a couple $100 million. You need to protect him.
Out there. Like you gotta protect him.
Whether you think he is or not, and there's a lot of people that are jumping off that bandwagon that were Giants fans.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can't do much. I know his contract's really only more like a 3-year contract. before you can get out of it. I think after 2, it's not a terrible hit. But yeah, you can't move on from him right now, and especially if he gets hurt. And just because they lost 40-0, I don't think it's time just to break it down. I mean, they won a
Yeah.
playoff
I
game
mean,
last year. I think they
yeah.
played out
One
of
of
their minds, but you have Saquon, one of the best running backs. You have Daniel
mhm.
Jones. I don't believe he's one of the best quarterbacks, but
Yeah.
they paid him and committed to him like he was one of the best quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So in their mind, they need to keep going for it. They have an okay defense. Um,
Darren Waller, they picked up Darren Waller.
one loss is one loss. It doesn't matter if you
Yeah.
lose it in overtime off of a free punt return like the Bills did, or lost 40-0 to the Cowboys. The Bills and I mean the Bills and the Giants had the same record regardless. Now I know tiebreakers can go into it at some point with how many points you get, whatever, but or how many points you score. You were shut out. It's embarrassing. It sucks. But in the end, you're just 0-1. You came into that game an
16
underdog.
weeks.
You came into that game an underdog, so you thought, okay, there's a chance we're going to lose this game, not 40-0, but there's a chance we're going to lose this game. Is your mindset we lose this game in overtime, we're going to pack it up and try to go for Caleb Williams, or we're going to no? So they're going to go for it, and leaving Daniel Jones in there when it's, I don't know if he was in there when it was 40-0, but he was in there really late, at least 33-0.
Yeah.
Getting his ass whooped. I mean, and there were 7 sacks on the stat book, but there were a couple of times the Cowboys were offside. I think there was a holding penalty on the defense or whatever. He was really sacked 9 or 10 times, and you could say, well, they pulled it back, but Daniel Jones still got hit to the ground, and that affects him. You can still break your leg on a flagged sack that's going to come back.
Yeah, 100%. 100, like you can
on the same field that Aaron Rodgers would end up. I mean, I know hindsight, but still, it's on that field where you've had questions. You've had questions about the field, the playing surface.
Yeah, that's
It's
I'm
football. I get it. You're getting paid $40 million.
Taking the quarterback out. Yeah. I'm gonna take him out just because I made such an investment in him, and he won a playoff game last year. The season's not over. Football is it's like one of those sports where momentum is everything, and once it gets rolling, like if the wheels are falling off, it's probably done. Especially at the professional, like in the NFL. That's just how it is. That's what happened with the Vikings whenever the Cowboys beat them 40-3 last year. It was just one thing happens, and one thing after another, and then you look up and it's 27-0, and it's like, man, that's you just got to chalk that one up.
It's all in the mind. It's all in your head. You're 0-1. That's it. It's hard. I don't know when the last time somebody I assume somebody got shut out last year. I don't know. But it's not very often. The Cowboys aren't 40 points better than the Giants.
No.
That's just what happened in that game. I mean, they played.
I don't think any.
No,
there's no NFL team that's 40 points better than anybody.
And that's why when you said it was a 9-point spread, that's a big spread.
It is, yeah.
Typically, you're thinking a touchdown or less in most cases. It's got to be a situation where your starting quarterback goes down, like in this situation. Everybody's getting paid. They're all professionals. They were all stars in college. So they just got it happened. It sucks. It's embarrassing. They've got to get out of it. Yeah, exactly. They got to get out of it. We lost. Doesn't matter if we lost 24-23 or 40-0. You have to get out of it.
Yeah. And you've seen teams bounce back from big losses like that and come back and win the next week. And that's just a part of it. It's a part of the season. It's a part of the game. You can go out there, lay an egg, and come back and beat someone by 3 touchdowns. And that's just a part of it. But, next week, if they come out and lose 21-0 or 21-3 or something like that, a 3-score game, 2-score game, then they'll have to start thinking like, okay, maybe, maybe something's going on. I'm not sure who they play next week. I have to look it up really fast. But so they play the Cardinals on the road. So
Okay, yeah, it's a
should be a bounce back game.
Back game. Yeah, especially
Yeah,
the Cardinals. I think
it
they're
should
trying
be.
to lose anyways.
Yeah, they're trying to lose anyway. So if you go 0-2, lose to the Cardinals, then you got to
We got
start
some
talking
alarms
about
going off. Yeah.
Yeah, got some alarms going off for sure.
Yeah, the Cowboys just have one of those defenses. They're not going to shut out teams. They may not shut out another team this year. That would be big if they had 2 shutouts in one season.
Yeah.
But they have so many playmakers and have the depth where if you let that get into your head, okay, we were about to score, we had a punt, we had a blocked field goal, and then we had a turnover, and then we had a punt. The Cowboys aren't going to let up. Where teams like that with a lot of playmakers, that's how you can get into that hole. I can make the argument that the Bills have a similar situation about where they just lost to the Jets and essentially lost to Zach Wilson. Wilson didn't have a great game. He did have a pretty good drive, and then a crazy touchdown throw. But
and they played the Raiders.
Yeah, but it's the same thing, except that they just turn the ball over. That's why going into this week, the Cowboys and Jets, I'm not too worried about it, although Zach Wilson is going to get a little more prepared for this game. But at the same point, would anybody be extremely surprised if the Cowboys came out and didn't play great? It was frustrating, and they still ended up getting the win. That's how the Cowboys play. That being a Cowboys fan, that's 100% possible. You go from dominating Daniel Jones to Zach Wilson, and you leave him and let him stay in the game. That's what the Bills did. They kept throwing interceptions. They'd fumble, though. They were up 13-3 at halftime. And then they just let them get back in the game, and that's where it goes back to making sure Dak Prescott doesn't turn over the ball. And I think if Dak doesn't turn over the ball, I don't care what his stats show, if he throws for 300 yards or not. But being at home, it's not, whether it rains or not, it's not going to affect the game. The Jets defense, I think Dak has an opportunity for a great game. But seeing how this defense, if they play anything like they did against the Giants, I think this is going to be an easy win for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I agree. And I think at this point in Dak's career, he's had the stat years, he's had the stat games.
He's capable of it.
Yeah, he's capable. He's not like if Pat Mahomes has a bad stat game, we're gonna be alarmed because that's what he's known for. Big stat games and big wins. But Dak,
and that's what the Chiefs are relying on. The Chiefs are relying on Mahomes. The Cowboys not necessarily on Dak to carry him anywhere.
Exactly. They're just pretty much relying on him to not turn the ball over and the defense to win games. And that's just where he is in his career. So
you had Stephon Gilmore, a big free agent pickup, getting an interception. You had Cooks, another free agent pickup,
Brandon Cooks,
have a couple of big plays. And Turpin scored a rushing touchdown. I think that was the last one.
Yeah,
put him up 40-0.
Yeah,
pretty good. Negative, I guess, the kicking situation. Although,
oh man,
he did make the rest of his extra points.
He did.
His field goals. He just missed the first one, and I just know everyone said, "Here we go again."
That's just that's the word. Yeah, it was just one of those things where you're like, "Oh, not again." And he made all the other ones. So
yeah,
I guess he's still on the team. So I don't.
He's a rookie. It was his first ever attempt.
They gave it to a rookie. Yeah. So
but
we'll see.
You gave up. You got rid of a pretty decent kicker who made you a couple of 60-yard field goals.
Didn't do too bad in his
historic one against Minnesota where they blew the whistle and reviewed the play when he made a 60-yarder and waved it off, and then he went back and kicked another 60-yard field goal. But you missed, 4 extra points in the wild card game, and then your very first one against San Francisco, you're going to get booted for that. So
got to, yeah.
Hopefully that's not a storyline this season.
Right, yeah.
And CeeDee Lamb, 4 catches, 77 yards. Not a bad game for him as well, especially since you're not airing the ball out, not
Yeah.
in the fourth quarter, not really at all. That is their offense, that West Coast style offense. But
Hmm.
when you get up early, really quickly, you it changes your game plan a little bit. I'm not too
Yeah.
worried about it. If they would have
Yeah.
kept throwing the
And he had
ball
over.
and more drops, and they just couldn't get
Yeah.
anything going, I'm not that worried about it because, in the end, the defense was on the field most of the time.
Yeah. And he had over half of Dak's yards. So, like, just the time he was on the field and his production, I think that was a
Yeah.
pretty good game. So I mean, for 77
Yeah,
yards,
that's true.
and his
Yeah,
line was at like,
if your lead receiver has half the yards, your starting
yeah, that's
quarterback,
pretty good.
that's a pretty
Hmm.
good game.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. So, anything you're concerned about? Cowboys, Jets. Any chance you're taking the Jets, or you're worried about the Jets at all? It worries me because we're just like, no, this should be an easy win, and
Yeah,
that's
that's
when,
exactly what I was about to say. Yeah, I think it's just one of those. It's just like, oh, it's an easy win. I I think the Jets are. I don't think they're bad at all. I think the Cowboys should win. It won't be. It won't look like what it was on Sunday. They have talent. They have a lot of talent.
yeah,
Um, but I think it'll be a way closer game. Probably like one of those 10-point games that we were talking about. Um, defense will, you know, establish dominance, against Zach Wilson, make him throw a couple picks, get a couple of sacks. Their offense will struggle. And I think Dallas will establish their offense later, probably like, early second quarter and then kind of pull away. Um, so I have them winning by like 10 points, at probably like a 10-point spread. I think the spread is right on the money.
yeah. I mean, if the Cowboys can limit the turnovers, I don't think there's any way the Jets can win. That's their job.
Hmm.
If they can somewhat move their offense, have a decent offensive day, but
Hmm.
just protect the ball. I think the defense can carry them, especially having a subpar quarterback.
Hmm. Yeah.
So we both have the Cowboys winning over the
Hmm.
Jets. That'd be it's the 3 o'clock game on Sunday. I think it's on
Yeah. Three
CBS.
o'clock. Hmm.
Um, and then we'll get into your MLB Power Rankings. Haven't done that in a while.
Okay.
I mean, you do it on follow
Yeah.
us right there at Sports Page Radio. You'll see it on Twitter.
Yeah.
But we haven't done it on a show in a while. So let's go ahead and do
Hmm.
your top five.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, really quick, I had the Braves at number one. So they've been number one for the past probably 2 months or so. That hasn't really changed. Orioles at number two. The Rays, they dropped out of the top five for a couple weeks, but they jumped all the way back to number three. The Dodgers are number four. I have the Astros right now at number five. I did these yesterday. I know they're slumping right now. I had Seattle up there as well, but those are my top five. The Rangers have won four in a row though, so they're kind of creeping back up, and they're just like they're just the most. It's the strangest thing I've ever seen from a team. Like I can't really I can't really put my finger on what happened, but yeah, the Astros are my fifth best team so far going into the last few weeks of the season.
Yeah, the Astros, a game ahead of the Rangers. I mean, essentially 2 games ahead because they hold the tiebreaker. They're playing
Hmm.
Oakland tonight. I don't know if they're avoiding a sweep or if it's a 4 game series, but I know they're playing Oakland in game 3 tonight. Oakland's obviously won the
Yeah.
first two.
Hmm.
Seattle's playing right now. Rangers are ahead of them,
Hmm.
and the Rangers clinched the tiebreaker over Toronto if it comes to that in the wild card. So that was big. They're
Yeah,
ahead of
that's
Toronto
big.
now. Yeah. So right now
Yeah,
they're
that's big.
essentially 2 games out of winning the West.
Hmm.
And then they have that second play, or they may have the first wild card spot. Yeah, because they're ahead of Toronto
I
and
think they're in the
Seattle.
first. Yeah, I think they have the first wild card spot. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
by a game.
Hmm.
So really really tight, but
It's tight. Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty good that they were able. I mean, that they're able to be in this position, even though they've had a terrible probably month and a half now.
Yeah, and that's a testament to how great they were. You know, they I think statistically they still have the best offense in the in the league, but they've been playing like crap for the past month and a
Yeah.
half. So
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
shows how far ahead they were at one point,
Yeah.
and
Before
that's
it
just
was their bullpen. And it's still, I
hmm
mean, their bullpen still is struggling. I mean,
hmm
not counting this 4-game win streak they're on. But it seems like they were always getting down in the first inning, giving up 2 or 3 runs in the first
yeah,
inning. I
give it up
know,
too. Yeah,
was it Altuve who had 2 home runs before every Ranger batter even came up to bat, or was it 3 home runs
yeah, it might have
in a
been
game?
three.
A
Yeah,
couple,
it
yeah.
might
I
have
mean, I
been
know
three.
he had 3 home runs in the game, but he had 2 or 3
Yeah,
home runs before the 9-hole batter
yeah,
batted for the Rangers, and it it,
yeah.
it wasn't just that they were losing; it was how they were losing. They were getting blown
They
out.
were losing,
Their
like they were losing by
offense
like
wasn't
8 or
doing
9
anything.
runs.
Yeah, their offense wasn't doing anything. They were giving up a lot of runs.
hmm
But now it seems like they're. I mean, they've won 4 games, but
hmm
there's still a couple of weeks left in the season, and
hmm
hopefully Corey Seager can keep hitting. He's on a historic
He's
stretch.
incredible. Yeah,
If he hadn't got injured a couple times, he would definitely be in
he'd
the
probably be up
MVP
for
race.
MVP. Yeah,
Well,
for
I guess he
sure.
still is in
Yeah,
the race, but yeah, I don't know if Otani. If I think they'll still give it to him.
hmm
But
just
yeah,
off of just the
it's a great time to be in North Texas, a DFW
hmm
sports fan. Um, Professional ranks, 'cause the Cowboys do what they do, and they should win in New York. And right now, the Rangers are back in the groove, and who knows? By the time
yeah,
we do the
and
show
then
next week, they might be in first place.
right and Texas. I see the banner behind you,
Yeah,
and Texas jumping up to number
yeah,
4. That was a big win.
beating Alabama.
That's a huge. That was a huge win, and it was one of those. Just really quick, it was just one of those wins where I was like, "This is probably the best win I've seen from Texas since the national championship."
Yeah, even the commentators mention like it doesn't seem like Alabama should be in this game. Even though 10
Yeah,
points, I mean,
yeah,
10 points is a big,
on the road. Yeah,
yeah, 10 points is a big victory over anybody
hmm
if you're not playing Appalachian State or somebody.
hmm
So the Cowboys, I mean, the Longhorns go in and beat Alabama on the road by 10 points is a big deal.
yeah, yeah,
A
yeah.
big deal
Loving
yeah,
my sports teams right now. So I can't wait to see what happens this weekend.
yeah. Texas plays Wyoming. There aren't
Yeah,
really any great matchups this weekend. Not with any high ranked teams, anyways. This is kind of one
hmm
of those playing cupcake teams
yeah,
before you start getting in the
yeah.
conference schedules. But
In
yeah,
the conference.
it'll
Yeah,
be here in a few weeks.
hmm
We'll
definitely.
be talking about all these big matchups.
hmm
Uh, well, guys, thanks for tuning into this episode. Appreciate listening to us. Be sure to subscribe, like us. You see our social media tags down there. Go ahead and follow us. Until next time, I'm Ashton.
All right, I'm Chris. See you guys.